Alright, I'm going to try this video one more time. This is a kind of an update and a pre-next video, however you want to say it. What happened was I've already edited and got it all, this next video kind of segment, whatever you want to call it, on this Avalanche, specifically on the fuel mileage run that I, after the cold air intake. So, when you part 1 and part 2 of the cold air, I did not get a chance to kind of do anything in between. So when this part 3 comes out, it's kind of like a it's like what's this one all about? And I didn't feel like I said re-editing and stuff. So this video is kind of like a pre-next video. So now that I've said that twice, let's get on with it. If you recall, or if you watched any of the other videos on this Avalanche, with a stock 4.8, with the only thing I'm going to say non-stock that was done to it prior to the cold air was it's had pretty much synthetic body fluid put in, everything but the transmission. It's the only thing I haven't serviced yet. Front axle, rear axle, transfer case, engine, all has full synthetic oil in it. And that got me at a 270 mile round trip to Arkansas and back. That got me 18.4 mile a gallon. It was either 18, I think it was 18.4. Now I'm gonna hate to say this, but this is how far behind I am. That video of me putting the cold air intake on was done, I believe, August. That first fuel mileage run was done in July, and this is first week of December. So that's how far back, how far out I am of getting these videos out, because I'm so frustrated and have to do so much work on this thing. It's just been eating me up. So, but I did want to do the fuel mileage thing to kind of show you guys the difference between stock and non-stock. And I did a 60 mile run in the stock configuration on on this little run I do. It's like a third highway, a third city, a third 50-60 mile an hour run. That's kind of how it works, and it's 59.6 miles. That's why I kind of call it 60. It's pretty close to 60 anyway. And it does make a difference if you put 60 compared to 59.6, but basically using a calculator, and that's how I do all my fuel mileage. I don't trust what the computer says, because those are always off. And what I'm getting at though is my 60 mile run. The first one I did, it was real windy, and I got a really ugly number. Well, it was actually really good. It was above what I assumed it should have been, and so I had to wait. And when I finally got the video out, this is kind of where it's going to come in at. That 60 mile run in stock configuration got me like an 18.65 or something like that, 18.66. I can't remember what it was. And so I kind of averaged that to an 18.5 without the cold air intake. Basically stock engine. You know, I mean, it is a stock engine, but basically if you take the synthetic out of it, I don't know what it would have gotten originally, because I never got a chance to do the mileage run because the thing was falling apart when I got it. So anyway, the next video you see after this one is going to be the start of fuel mileage runs with cold air intake. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's move to the rest of the update. The white GMC, the one there in the center, I have not taken to the shop yet. I am not going to strip it yet, because that's going to be a bunch more stuff in my road. And yes, the truck itself takes up a lot of space, but it runs and drives, so there's no sense in me stripping it and having more parts laying around. So I'm just going to drive it over the shop, let it set till my decisions are made on what I'm going to do with it. The 76 Malibu behind, for those of you who've watched any videos on it, it has a 2003 Tahoe 5.3 drive-by-wire with a turbo 350. It's basically stock. The engine itself is stock. It does have headers and exhaust and a cold air and a tune, but bottom line though, it's a stock 300,000 plus mile 5.3. It still runs good, doesn't use oil, doesn't smoke. But I was having a lot of trouble, and the warmer it is, the worse it is, with the drive-by-wire going into limp mode, and I'd literally lose my foot pedal on startup, and or sometimes driving down the road. It would just, done. It would, you'd lose your pedal, and it would go to an idle, and you'd have to pull off the side of the road, shut the car off, and I was keeping a my OBD2 reader hooked up, so that while I was driving it, so that I could just pull over and hurry up and reset it. and it was really getting to be a pain in the butt. And I changed the throttle body on it. I did a few other things, and it was to no avail. Every time, the hotter it got outside, the worse it got. So the other day, I tried to drive from the shop here. It quit 3 times in 2.5 miles, and I was done. So I brought it here in the garage. I didn't do a video on it, but I started looking. I know it was the harness where it plugs into the drive-by-wire throttle body. So I took it apart, and I untaped it because I had it taped pretty tight when I did the wiring harness myself, and I separated all the wires. I plugged everything back in, started up, and started jiggling each wire individual, and it never did do it again. I don't know if I just had it pulled so tight that it was making connections somewhere or not. I really don't know what happened, but I've been driving it now for a month, back and forth to work quite a bit and around town, and it has not done it one time since. So my guess would be that it was I just had, for some reason, I did not like to have that wiring pulled, that wiring harness itself pulled that tight with the tape I put on. So that's where we're going with that. Cadillac's still here. I've got to get rid of it. It needs to go to a friend of mine's house. I just haven't got it done yet. So now into the garage. Okay, MG's covered, just to keep the dust stuff off of during the winter. And look at this. It's actually partially clean. Even the tabletop over there. Now look at my workbench. It's not done yet. There was my mower was sitting here. I still do not have a shed built, so it is parked back here in the dirt. I talked to a guy who says this winter he actually had taken 2 years off of work. I assume he was sick. I didn't want to get into it, and he's working back out there as a contractor where I'm working, and he said he might be able to this winter get to this and get this concreted for me. You will see some video on that Dixon. I just finished up working on it. I've had the thing several years. It has never mowed a blade of grass since I've owned it. I bought it. It doesn't matter. There's going to be videos coming out on it, and I wouldn't say it's cool, but anybody who's ever wanted to kind of know anything about the way the cone drive worked on the original Dixon zero turn, and those of you who don't know anything about Dixon, D-I-X-O-N, that was a company that was actually based out of Coffeyville, out in the industrial park. It had a patent on the cone drive for many years. When the patent ran out, they were having trouble deciding, they were starting to lose money after that because these things were very sought after, very expensive mower for the time. This is just a little 30-inch. It's a 1994 model, 1994 is the year. The model number is a 3302. I bought it pretty cheap, and I've been looking at them to start rebuilding on the side, just because I enjoy working on them. However, even a junk one non-running is about 250 bucks plus, and that's ridiculous for that number, because I'm not even sure I can get 300 out of this one because it's a 30-inch, but it does run and drive good now. We'll get into that later. Okay, now, I don't know my failure on my 4.8 in the Avalanche. If anybody has kept up on those, you know that I've, ever since startup, which I wished I'd videoed it on startup, and I didn't. I got oil pressure pretty good. I got like 60 pounds on startup, and then it fell off pretty quick to 40 pounds. And when it gets hot, it gets about 12 to 15 pounds and makes ugly sounds. If you got it hot and you kind of hold it about 3,000 RPM, it sounds like it's trying to swap rods around. Yes, I've still been driving it, but I'm 3 miles from work. And my wife's only a mile from work, so we have been driving it periodically just around, not letting it get super hot. Just to, and I also put 1040 oil in it. I do not recommend changing your oil weight on the vehicle that's supposed to have 530 in this particular case. I did it for longevity. The motor's done. There's nothing I can do about it without pulling it. I still don't know the failure point. I really have it narrowed down to oil pump. The way I hooked it, I did not follow recommended, no, I didn't have any at the time. I did not follow recommendations from Melling, and I should have went to their website to begin with. I bought a stock Melling oil pump and put in it, but apparently there was a sacrificial ring in there. I don't know if this one had it. I think I said this on other videos. Doesn't matter. It's failed. So what I'm showing you on this is underneath that plastic is the 5.3 that came out of the Avalanche originally. It lost oil pressure when it got hot, but it did not make any funny sounds prior to this. Now, I could have cheated, possibly put a high volume oil pump in it. It may have worked to get rid of it, to sell it. That's not how I like to roll. I don't want to sell something to somebody that you know, that I know is questionable. Unless they know up front, hey, this thing's a pile of crap, I want 15 bucks for it, you know, whatever. In this case, I have way more money into this Avalanche than it's worth. So I'm doing it because I enjoy working on stuff. I like the Avalanche. Yes, I have 10,000 other projects to do, but I've got to get this one complete and get it out of my life. So to do this, I'm going to have to do something else. I got on an LS1 forum and asked about the cam bearing, because in the front, as I've said on other videos, the front cam bearing had 2 holes in it, but it was only lined up with 1 hole, and I thought that was my failure. When I got on an LS, specifically LS1, I didn't mean to. That was just something I signed up for. I should have went to truck, but it doesn't matter. Pretty much all the LS Gen 3, first gen of the LS, were the same. So with that being said, they said that there is only 1 hole in the block. So even though there's 2 holes in the cam bearing, and I know I've said this on another video, so I'm down to possibly, without, I did not look at the other 4 cam bearings. So I think there's 5. I want to, but I think there's 5. One of those may not have been lined up proper. The guy who installed them from the machine, he's run or owned and operated his own machine shop for 40-50 years. So I know that he knows what he's doing. I checked to make sure that the cam bearings were for the specific year that the 4.8 was, and they were, as again I showed you on another video. But I still believe it's one of those 2 is a failure. So I'm not sure. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, and I don't know when those videos are going to come out, I'm going to strip this 5.3 and go through it. I had several people on the LS1 forum who I was asking questions, says, why are you messing with building those? Just go find a low mileage one and put in. That sounds great, guys, but those 5.3s and 4.8s, those things are now 15 to 20 years old. And to find a low mileage one around this area, that 300,000 miles that's on that 5.3 and that Malibu, that's standard around here. 250 to 300 these people drive, because anywhere you want to go around my area of a town of 10,000 is at least 60 to 80 miles away, one way. So if you want to go shopping or you work 50 miles away, you put the miles on stuff. And a lot of people around here have farms, so I'm in Kansas and you're right on the Oklahoma border, so that's kind of what you run into. I got a guy I work with. I've worked on his excuse me, it's an 03. It may be an 03 also. Tahoe, 4-wheel drive. They bought it used. Wife drove it. He drove it back and forth to work, then give it to their daughter. She now bought another car to go to college because it gets better gas mileage, and now he wants to sell this Tahoe. It has 400,000 miles on it. All original. Nothing's been changed. So you can get the mileage out of them, you take care of them. The only thing is, it's not worth anything. Who's going to give any money for something with 400,000 miles on it? So anyway, it would be great if I could find one that had 60,000 miles in a salvage yard for $1,000, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in this area. So I found them with 150, 160,000 miles. I found one the other day for 350 bucks. Guy says it run and drove, couldn't give me the mileage that the rear main seal leaked. I don't know. I mean, yeah, the 350 bucks might be worth it, but I can't hear it run. And the reason I'm not pulling a 4.8 out of that GMC out there is it's got piss and slap on startup, and I don't like that. So I've had that before. I basically give a 5.3 away years ago out of my 01 Suburban because it did the same thing. And the rear main seal was leaking in, only had 158,000 miles on it. So anyway, so what we're going to do is I'm going to tear that 5.3 down. I failed once. I'm going to be a little bit more diligent on measuring and paying more attention to stuff, and hopefully we'll get it right this time. And because it's expensive, even without any machine work, you know, just the basic engine kit itself is expensive. So you're talking, you know, I don't remember what I paid. I'd literally have to get in there and look at the numbers on it. But I bet you start to finish, I would have almost, and mind you, I bought the engine for 200 bucks. So I probably had 800, 900 bucks into it. I mind you, I replaced the water pump, and you know, of course I had to do head bolts. I think I did push rods because they were missing, and of course lifters, you know, that kind of stuff. And you know, anyway, so that was kind of a little update. Next video you see will be of the Avalanche doing mileage runs. You're not going to see the whole run. Obviously it'd be boring. It's like an hour and 15 minutes. I did it twice in a row, and but basically it's pulling up the same pump and you know, doing the mileage by calculator. You kind of see what happens. So see you guys.